Typos, typographical errors. So I made a typo today, and it has caused a surprising amount of introspection. So I'm going to make a video about typos. So what is a typo? Start this intro. So typographical error. It's a typo. So it's an abbreviation of a longer term. And what is a typographical error? It's a mistake that occurs in print. So that might also be called a misprint. And so what the heck does that mean? Okay, so I'm gonna so when I'm reading, I printed out something, or I'm reading something online, or I'm reading a book. Like a book might be the easiest thing, or where people notice this a lot. It's kind of online these days. I'm gonna go through kind of examples from my personal experience, and then I'll kind of discuss what happened, so the typo I made. So typos are like, if I'm reading a book or I'm reading an article online, it could be something like in science, the word science, like somebody could spell science SCEINCE if it's spelled SCIENCE. So it could be like transposing letters. Spelling errors tend to be kind of used as an example. They can occur at different times in the writing process. So there's the writing process. So I'm typing out a sentence, writing. So like right now I am handwriting. This is one style of writing. There's also typing. So like handwriting, writing, typing are two examples of like writing forms. And so that's just like putting stuff down, writing. It can happen at the editing process, which sounds weird. It's like, I'll use an analogy for this one. So editing. I have done this where I find a typo I made when I was writing. I go back to fix it, and when I go back to fix it, I introduce a different typo. I have done that. I've done that more than once. So that's like, it's like I have something like 13 years of teaching experience, and it's like a regrade. Like if a student's like, I want this regraded, it's like, okay, if I'm going to regrade it, it doesn't necessarily mean the student's going to get a higher score. They can get a lower score, right? Because I didn't catch something the first time through. And so some people actually end up losing points when they ask for a regrade. And some people have the same score. And some people get more points, they get it right, but they get something else wrong. So like someone could get right, oh, this was graded wrong or something like that. But then in regrading, find a mistake they made elsewhere that wasn't cut before. Maybe it was like in some of the big classes I've taught with like 300 students, we'll have different people edit different or grade different questions or something like that. So if I'm regrading things, I might actually go and edit or grade a question that I didn't grade the past time. So a previous grader missed something, and so then this person ends up losing points because I caught something a different grader like missed. Which is why it's good to have, as a teacher, if possible, more than one person grade something, like 2 sets of eyes. Speaking from experience, 2 sets of eyes can help a whole lot in preventing those kind of mistakes. So that's a grading analogy, is an editing analogy. Editing for the most part catches things. It doesn't all the time. No professional is 100% accurate 100% of the time, including editors. They're not immune to that. And then the last the last place kind of in the writing process where this can happen is, I'm going to call it publishing, including printing, So I'm gonna kind of phrase this as, some people might put editing with publishing, so this might be more like printing specific. I'm gonna phrase this one as, because this is kind of how it's come across when I've encountered this one, is it, not all the time, but it's like, fact can be stranger than fiction. I want to say fact is stranger than fiction, because that's a blanketing term. For me, in my experience, I'd say fact or truth can be stranger than fiction, but that does not mean it is 100% of the time. What the heck do I mean by that? Printing. I have had, so like I've published in scientific journals and stuff like that. I've had like, and I've written something, so like I'll have a manuscript or something, for example, on a computer, or I'll have a draft of a document, and I'll print it out because I like to mark up my drafts of things on paper. And I will be going through what I have written, edited, I'm editing again, and have printed out, so it's physical copy. And the physical copy will be literally different than what I have on my computer. So I can go to my document, and what happened is the printer screwed up the P and the D keys when it was printing. So a word that was update becomes udpat, you know? Like, and it has nothing to do with spell check. It has nothing to do with my writing or my editing. What do? I go back to the printer. It's so freaking strange when that happens. And then just print it again, and it's not there. So it's just literally a printer glitch. And so some people think machines are infallible, and so they're not. And I have another teaching analogy. So I've taught a couple classes that had over 300 students, and we took attendance with something called iClicker. So people click a button, and attendance is supposed to be registered in this base station for the iClicker. Now what happens is, some of the times the iClickers don't work, even if they have all of their settings right, they're pressing it, they're close enough, that kind of stuff. For whatever reason, the base station doesn't pick it up. The machine doesn't work. So then the students will come down and be like, I tried it, it didn't work. I'm still physically here, can you count me in attendance? Yeah. What's really weird, or not really weird, it can be, some people rule it out as like, it's impossible for it to happen. Speaking from experience, it's possible. It can go the other way too. Just what I think, what do I mean by that? People who are present or not present, they did not go to class that day, will report later that, or have reported later that what happened is the iClicker registered their clicker even though they were not close enough, they'd never pressed the button, they weren't there. So technology glitches tend to go two ways. They don't just go one way. I think there's social conditioning of, if something's wrong, fix it. Not everybody reports something when it goes in their favor. Like another instance is like, at a place I worked, there was a lot of payment problems, and there would be people who would get overpaid, but they wouldn't report it. Eventually the school or the institution I was working from would come and ask them for the money that they got overpaid, because they should have reported it, but they didn't. And I wasn't on that end. I did hear of that happening on numerous occasions. I was on the end where I didn't get paid for everything I had made, or I didn't get paid at all. So it went both ways. It's just, there's social conditioning of, I need money for rent and food, so I am gonna report it. Versus the people who made the extra money, not all of them did. So there's a bit of it that's just, technology glitches go both ways. And so I would put that in a, fact can be stranger than fiction. But a lot of it is just like social conditioning kind of thing. Like, and people maybe not like even contemplating the possibility that a typo could, or regrade, or technology can malfunction in another direction. So this is kind of, and then I guess on the printing end of things, in places in the world where printing presses with the letters and punctuation and stuff that is still set by humans, humans can also introduce mistakes in printing. Printing presses used to be, I think, more common, that style of printing press. Like we have an at-home printer, and it's not one of us aligning the keys. Before at-home printers existed, where we don't have to, like, people used to actually do this more commonly. So typos can also be introduced there. I think that's a really interesting dynamic. How do I